you beautiful people. Lisa sharing life stories with you. My hair looks crazy today because I didn't put any hairspray in it. Oh, well. I was busy talking to my husband. I just really couldn't get going doing anything today. All I did was wash a load of clothes, change garbage, feed the cats, feed my dog, wipe off a couple counters. What else did I do? I think that was it. Wipe off a table, wipe off something in the refrigerator. That's all I did. That was it. And then talk to my husband because he just came home yesterday when I was at work. He got home around 3:30. He hurts real bad. See, what I don't even understand and pay attention sometimes, he works on race cars and has a race car, right? He doesn't drive professionally. He doesn't have all that big money. Nothing like that. It's for the love of the sport. And everybody else that's with him, it's for the love of the sport. They're all good people. They help one another tremendously. My husband, when he works, I got to remember, he busts his ass. He works so hard. They don't have like what you see on TV, like race teams. There's 3 or 4 guys helping one guy, and they're all killing themselves. They're all doing like 2 and 3 and 4 people's jobs. And my husband helped he's a mechanic for this guy's car and help keep it going and everything. It's just the guy paid for his way there, hotel, everything, because we don't have money. Paid for his food. I go, what was the last thing you ate? Yes, you only ate one thing on the way home. You ate a chicken salad sandwich. And for some reason I kept thinking at a gas station, I'm like, what is a chicken salad? He goes, it's like a tuna fish sandwich. I'm like, oh, for some reason, that didn't pop in my mind. And every time, this makes me so mad. My husband doesn't like to eat a lot when it's hot out, and that's totally understandable. He would rather have like colder dishes or cold salads and fruit. I got a whole thing of strawberries and watermelon there. He better start eating it because I'm going to have to throw it. I'll get so mad. He wants some kind of cold stuff. All right, tomorrow, what do you want? Call me later and I'll tell you. I swear, if I call him in another hour or so and he doesn't know, I'm going to beat him up. I don't know what else to say. He always tells me stuff like that. Oh, you go to the grocery store. I go, well, what do you want in the grocery store? Oh, ask me tomorrow. I'll have an answer for you. He never has an answer. He always tells me, you just get whatever. I go, how do I know what you're getting? I mean, I know what he likes after 20-some years of marriage. Okay, next year will be 25. I know pretty much what he likes, but I would like to get him something new or something once in a while, and I don't know if he'd like it. I wish he would go with me. I could see if he didn't have the time or something. He could find 2 hours a week to go. I mean, he goes to the store a lot for me when I work, and now again, he's going to have to. And he don't mind. He does a good job. He's really good at the store. He's one of the few men I can say who really knows shit, like knows what I buy, comes back with the right thing, and he is always to get bigger instead of go get smaller. Like sometimes he isn't sure if I need a cucumber, like 1 cucumber, he'll get me 2. That's good. Okay, today, the story is, let me put this makeup on so I don't scare people. I'm going to scare people anyways, so they don't keep saying that I look like frickin' Gary Busey. I don't care. It's the way my hair's cut and the frame of my face, whatever. Well, at least I look, like I say, at least I look like somebody that's famous and has got money. Anyways, let me tell you the story of my wonderful dad. Well, you know, I should go for Halloween. I should give out candy and look like this. And I'm a makeup commercial ad. Seriously. Give out makeup looking like this. Say, hey, this is the new makeup. Does it work? Does it not work? All right. Story of my most wonderful Lawrence Ernest Hodella is my most wonderful father's name. Everybody start off. I'm going to sound like other people here for a minute. other YouTubers. Get yourself a coffee. Get yourself, I got Pepsi with ice. Get yourself a drink. Get yourself a glass of wine. It's very hot in Michigan today. Tomorrow's going to be almost 90 again. I'm tired of heat already. I got a weed whack tomorrow. My husband's got to cut grass. And I have to get it done tomorrow because it's going to rain the rest of the week in Michigan. And our house can't look like this. So I'm going to clean up our yard tomorrow. And my friend's spraying it on me. I got to go let her dog out again tomorrow. It's my day off. I got stuff to do. I'm going to kill her. So anyways, just not in the mood. I got too many other things going on to be going to her house 3 times a week. That's a lot now. It's getting to be a lot. But I feel bad for her, so that's why I do stuff. Because I love her to death. So there. So anyways, I had to bitch about it. Now I feel better. Anyways. Alright, my wonderful father. I'm going to go all the way back. And what I mean by that is, my father was 45 years old. And my Uncle Philip already had died at this point. Remember I told you about my uncle yesterday, my wonderful uncle? I think my dad was a couple years younger than my Uncle Philip. Yeah, he was. I'm trying to put this all in perspective and all in the right place as I tell you the story. This makeup's a little too light for me because I got it's a little too damn light, but that's all right. Yeah, my uncle, come to think of it, he passed away at 45, had a massive heart attack. My dad had a midbrain stroke, which a midbrain stroke means affects both of your sides equally, but sometimes one side more than the other, right? All right. So, my dad was 45 years old. This is a pretty color. Had a midbrain stroke. I'll never forget that, and I'll tell you why. My dad had a catheterization. He had blockage, blockage in your heart arteries, blah, 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 blah. And so one of the side effects that people don't know, see, I know a lot about sicknesses and medicines and everything. One of the side effects to a catheterization is you can have a stroke. I remember I was able to drive, I think, yeah. I was able to drive a car. I remember bringing my dad home and we were celebrating. I think we got Kentucky Fried Chicken or something, blah, 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 blah. And I think I was washing all the chairs outside for my mother, the kitchen chairs, I think. My dad was in the kitchen. All I do remember is my dad had his stroke on the kitchen floor, and my poor little daddy, all he could remember thinking of saying is, "Get my wallet, get my wallet." And he was so afraid. My poor, beautiful father, strongest man you ever want to know. I mean, my dad was exceptionally strong. Like, he would lift our pool filter up. We had one of those big square Hennen pools I grew up with. Remember, you'd see those big, big, big pools? That's what I grew up with. He did everything for us. And he used to lift the filter up and people would look at him with full of sand. It was like 500 pounds. My dad used to be able to lift real heavy weights. My dad was something. I'm going to show you guys tomorrow pictures of my parents. My parents look like freaking movie stars, okay? My parents were above beautiful. They make me look like shit. And you're going to see how beautiful my parents were tomorrow. Oh, yeah, when I'm off, I'm going to search for the pictures of my mom and dad. My dad used to drive an MG sports car. He was badass. He always used to say my mom saved his life because he hung around with gangsters and people. Everybody he knew was dead or got killed. And my mom saved his life. My dad was a great guy. He was funnier than shit. My dad was funny. So if anytime you ever think I'm funny in a remote part of me, that's from my dad. My dad had a crazy sense of humor. He was funner than shit and good looking. My dad looked like between Burt Reynolds and what's that other guy with the dark hair? My grandma always used to watch his mother TV and say, "There's Larry." I can't remember the guy's name off bat, but it'll come to me. Either today or tomorrow, I'll put it in for you guys. All right. I don't want to get off track. But anyways, okay, he had a stroke. He was so scared, so scared. I remember me and my mom being in the hospital, and they were doing a CAT scan of him. And he was so dizzy in the hospital. Everything was going, vroom, vroom, vroom. And I felt so bad for him. And he goes, he had the worst headache in the world, and that's all signs. I didn't know that back then because I was young. I didn't know that was all signs of, having a stroke and all that, and real bad dizziness, and felt like you want to throw up. And I think they gave him something after a while to take away the dizziness after they did all the tests, right? And I remember hours going by, something, and they just wanted to make sure there was no bleeding in the brain. Thank you, Lord, there wasn't. Then I remember, like, in the next couple days, because it's kind of foggy some parts now, coming back to the hospital. I mean, we were there the next day, but I'm just saying in the relative next couple days, he couldn't feed himself good. Like, everything would spill on him, and we thought that would last forever. Thank you, God, it didn't. It went away in time, but for the first month or two, because I remember we went to Big Boy and he couldn't drive, and he spilled I can't remember, the cream of mushroom soup was in Big Boy or was it in the hospital. He was eating and he spilled it all over him, and he was so frustrated with stuff like that, because my dad's a real clean guy and he just can't put up with shit like that. But that all did pass. So he had to be on Coumadin for years. That shit gave him a blood disease, okay? That shit. Because it ruined his blood. My dad could no longer take that. When my mom passed away, it made him bleed internally all the time. And I told him, you're not giving my dad that. If he has a stroke or something, oh well, he's not going to bleed to death inside. Because as years went on with that poison medicine, it's made out of rat poison. Just in case you guys didn't know, Coumadin. I know my shit. So, as the time went on, I think it made him sicker. He would be all of a sudden standing somewhere, and he'd just be bleeding, and he didn't even know it. Bleeding out of his legs. He was walking the basement, blood everywhere. And I was married then now by this point. As years went on, he was okay. He recovered from the stroke. Couldn't drive for a long time. I took him everywhere. Started driving again. Got all that back. But he still had a disability sign. Disability the doctor gave him. He could park close and stuff like that. So we were always worried about him, taking care of him, I did all the yard work. I did everything. So, too much ice in my mouth at one time. That Coumadin, some people have to take it. I really think my dad really didn't have to take it. It screwed up, gave him a blood disease, and I can't quite know the name of it. And it's almost like he had cancer of the blood. Let's put it that way. My dad went through the war and back, and I went through the war and back, always picking up the pieces, being there for him, making sure everything was right and good. I remember when he had that stroke, he was out of work for a while. My mom had a gold necklace in a layaway. I turned into the adult right then and there again. I drove her to the place she had in layaway, and I made her take it out of layaway, and she was so mad at me. I go, no, we don't know when our money's coming again, or bills, and I call the doctors, and I go, I can't worry about everybody else. I got to make sure my dad's papers is on top of your pile so we can eat and we have money. So I took care of everything always my whole life. I guess it's that sink or swim mentality in my brain. I always told my husband, I'm going to swim. I'm going to make it. If you're going to sink, I'm going to reach up and try to grab you, but I'm going to keep on making it. I've always somehow had that. I don't know where. I think I get that from my dad. I get my temper from my mother and my grandfather, Maxwell. But I do have a temper. But anyways, so my dad went through time and it was good. Just had to keep getting his blood checked all the time. Because Coumadin, you got to get your blood checked all the time so you don't bleed to death. It's a pain in the ass medication. So, blah, blah, blah. And that's when he started bleeding more and more as time would go on, years and years. He took it for about 15, 18 years. He would be bleeding out of nowhere, just unaware. My mom would call me. I would be so hysterical. I'd get there before the ambulances got there. And I lived in like Hazel Park, and my parents lived in Warren, where I grew up. And I would just drive like a maniac. And then I remember cleaning all that blood up, you guys. And my dad was scared of me. I remember one of the last times that happened to him, he was sitting at the kitchen table and there was a pool of blood all around him. My mom threw all the big heavy towels to soak everything up. They said he lost like 2 pints of blood. That's horrible. So he had to go to the hospital and get a blood transfusion and all that. So my mom went with him and I cleaned everything up. I remember doing it. I remember the couch, taking the couch apart before, soaked with blood from his leg, washing and cleaning all that up for my mother, helping her out. Yeah, a lot. There's a lot to remember comes to mind now. So, yeah, I did all that. So I remember, I'm going to kind of skip a lot. And then I remember my dad had both knees replaced, both hips. He had 4 stents in his heart. He had kidney failure, and I'll never forget that. He almost died from that. Well, my mom was obviously still alive, and all my aunts and uncles were alive. My dad was in the hospital. He wasn't in the ICU. He was, they called it step up, 1 step up from the ICU. I knew something was wrong, and I took care of my dad too hard and too long, and I knew what was something going on wrong with him. I came to see him, and I worked in a nursing home, so I had scrubs on, even though I worked in the kitchen. And I came to see him one morning before I went to work, and I'm like, wait a minute, my dad's not waking up. And these stupid nurses and everybody's walking around. I'm like, my dad, something's wrong with my dad. I want some action now. And I'm screaming at everybody. My dad isn't like this. My dad isn't sleeping. Something's wrong with my dad. I'm not stupid, I know. I remember taking his watch off his arm. When it was hysterical, it was like a holiday or something. They had to, and luckily I found my dad. It was God meant for me to find my dad, because those dumb nurses, he's just sleeping. No, he wasn't. He was in a coma. I found my father. I knew what was going on. So they had to get a hold of a dialysis person that was on call. And I'm like, what's fucking taking so long? Get him here. Get him here. My dad needs help. So after all that time, I don't know how I got my ma to the hospital. All my aunts and uncles came. They thought it was the end for my dad. My dad didn't wake up after they did emergency dialysis. He did not wake up. I remember my aunts and uncles were all crying over him. I remember taking my ma home, and as soon as my ma got home, they called my ma from the hospital, and the one nurse guy who seen us earlier said we were an extraordinary family, and he liked me, like knowing how I loved my dad and my mom. He couldn't give up on my dad. He pounded on my dad's chest, and all this gook and nasty shit came out, and he goes, I want bacon and eggs. I'm like, what the fuck? So, but he called my mom and said, Larry woke up, and my mom called me and she goes, Daddy's okay, meaning because he's my dad. Come and get me. Let's go see him. He's awake. He's okay. And we were hysterical and we're crying and we're talking to him, and he wants bacon and eggs, and we're like, thank you, God. And they told me my dad would only probably even, because he had severe kidney disease, live like a year or two after that. My dad lived 5-6 years after that. They underestimated my dad. My dad was one of the tough Pollock breeds. Tough Pollock. I remember my Uncle Larry that passed away, my aunt's second husband, and he said, nobody's tough like Larry. He goes through everything, because they both were named Larry. My dad, he was referring to. I've never seen a man tough like Larry and go through what that man goes through. He's something else, and he was. My dad was one of a kind. And we went back, and my dad was okay, and we told him my aunts and uncles, and he was okay, and brought him home. He was good. He was real good. I was so happy. Man, talk about on the brink of death. And then another time, my God, I've been through so much, just even think about another time, he was in the hospital, and he was bleeding inside. All that fucking Coumadin, right? They couldn't find where he was bleeding. So they had to stick a scope down, and they had to hurry up and do it because it's coming out red. My ma's, I couldn't do this time. My ma's in a room with him, wiping his ass as fast as it's coming out his ass. He's bleeding to death and dying, right? I never forget, I believe it was Dr. Ibrahim, stuck that scope down and cauterized him and saved my father's life. Saved my father's life. They weren't sure because there was so much blood, but he took a chance, and he said, I was on my knees in that hospital, in the ICU, on my knees for 2 hours straight, praying to God, please. And I just said the same stuff over and over and over and over. And my mom was there, and I just kept saying the prayers, and God helped him. Cauterized him and saved his life again. So then he was good, but he had on and off troubles and sicknesses in and out of the hospital after that. Then constant, always something, but nothing like near death like that. He had a blood disease. He needed a lot of iron infusions, or to go to the hospital and get blood infusions, right? So I would help with that, and sometimes he would go by ambulance where I didn't have to take off work and my mom was still alive. Okay, but then my mom got cancer of the uterus, which was horrible. The doctor frickin' killed her, because what doctor comes up to you and says, are you gonna sue me? Because they know they did something wrong. But I was too fucked in the brain to even pursue that. I didn't want nobody else cutting my beautiful mother not one more fucking time. So I didn't let anybody, and I should have, because I could have owned a couple hospitals. I could have had a lot of money. But I was so upset about my mother. Money was the last thing on my brain, right? So then my mother passed away from all that horrible stuff. It was another thing. I was in and out of the hospital every day with her for 50-some days. She lived after the operation. It never got better. Back and forth, trying to work, trying to take care of my dad. My husband's being screwed up, sick. Trying to help everybody. Oh my God, no wonder why I'm even coherent. My mom finally passed away on, it just breaks my soul. Don't even want to talk about it. Breaks my soul. So then I see my dad, my husband goes away to get help for 3-4 months at a treatment facility, because my husband had a chemical problems dependency, right? So I focus on my dad. I move in with my dad, and I take care of my dad. My mom passed away, and my dad wanted me there. I could have my mom's room. He was in my room by that point. His bed was in my room, my old bedroom, and I took my mom's room, right? I don't know. I got the feeling one time I stayed there later. I was still living at Chuck's mom's house where I live now. And I got the feeling when I was there, I felt my mom's spirit want me there. I felt as clear as day, as clear as day. I'm like, what would you think if I moved in? My dad, like, yeah. So then after I was there for a while, a couple months, my husband getting help, I cleaned everything up downstairs. That's where we were going to stay. It was beautiful. My mom and dad had a finished basement. It was cold down there. It was nice. It was beautiful. It was good. It was really nice. Had a kitchen table. It was just really great. I had my big king size bed down there. TVs. It was awesome. Awesome. Beautiful floor. Closets to put clothes in. It was great. So anyways, I moved in, took care of my dad. Finally, my husband comes home. He's good for a while, but at the end, I lived with my dad almost 4 years. He fell off the wagon again at the very end of my dad's life. And I'm trying to concentrate on both things. And it was very, very hard. And he went through another rehabilitation in the hospital. He got real sick again by them wanting to do the scope down his throat again. He got like sepsis from that. Wasn't clean or something, the scope. So I couldn't work no more because I was taking care of my dad, and I got unemployment for quite a long time in food stamps and all that. I needed to take care of my dad. So to make a long story short, I took care of my dad for almost 4 years. After my mom passed, I quit working and everything to take care of my dad. I did everything for him, and at the end of his life, the last couple weeks he had left to live, he was in the hospital rehabilitating, but I didn't know he was that close to death. And a lady he was friends with down the street, she goes, I knew something was wrong. I could tell when he was talking to me, they were friends, they were buddies. It was like he was saying goodbye. And I'm like, wow. And he asked me, though, when he came home from all that, and they told me he had 6 weeks to 6 months, and I broke down. I couldn't even gather myself. It was like I had the flu for a day and a half. I just couldn't even. I go, how am I going to do this? God, help me. How am I going to bring him home and let him pass away here? How am I going to do that? God helped me. God helped me. My dad came home, lasted 2.5 days at home, passed away. But he asked me before he passed, was I a good daddy? Are you kidding me? He was the best, most fairest, goodest person. I remember my husband made him 2 grilled cheeses. He had a whole bowl of watermelon. He drank a whole thing of orange juice. That was the last things he ever ate or drank, and then slipped into a coma. I got him a haircut too. We knew the funeral director so good. My maiden last name was Hudella, back in the old neighborhood in Detroit. He goes, I knew your dad's family so good, and I loved and respected your dad. I would have buried him for free. That's amazing that a funeral director would say that to you. He goes, because you guys, your dad was amazing. And I'm like, wow. I screwed up all the paperwork, went there. I got hysterical, couldn't find the $10,000 policy. And then when I went home, the lady that worked there and I found, I was just too hysterical because I'm downstairs in a room away, my dad's body is. And then he was teasing me, the funeral director, what did you do to your dad's hair? I got him a haircut while he was comatose. I was just trying to do everything right by my dad. And he goes, your dad would be so pissed off seeing his hair like that. Oh, son of a bitch. But I was just trying to do the right thing, you know? Jesus. But yeah, it all worked out. My cousins were mad. I didn't have no funeral for my dad. I had a service in our church, St. Martin de Porres. I just couldn't bring myself to having a funeral or anything else. I was just beat up. I was mentally and physically beat up. And what I found out after my dad passed away, my cousin went to see him, my cousin Debbie, and she's the most wonderful, good person in the world. He told her, I wish she would let me just go, meaning me, and I never knew that. I kept my dad there. I wouldn't let him go and see my mom. 3 months before my dad passed away, in June, never forget this, in June, 2 separate things happened. My dad was very close to death. He said my mom came the night before and sat on the side of his bed. They were real beautiful people when they were young. Even when they're older, they were beautiful. He goes, your mom was with her real pretty red lipstick, her pencil skirt. She sat on the side of the bed and said, Larry, it won't be long. You'll be with me. I go, oh, you're just imagining things. You're tired. You don't feel good. Oh, excuse me. You're just imagining things, I told my dad. 3 months to the day, in September 25th, my dad passed away. My mom was coming for him. Then, that same month, on my mom and dad's wedding anniversary, was June 13th, and mine's June 12th. Because I'm Catholic, the way my year fell that I wanted to get married on, I couldn't get married on a Saturday, so June 13th was a Sunday, so I got married Saturday, June 12th. I could get married on that. I was outside doing yard work, and my dad had a coffee table right by him, right? And he had the home phone. We had like four, units like that from the home phone. And he heard it go beep, beep. And he was sleeping, so he sat up. And he says, I never forget nothing. Right over his shoulders, it was real muffled at first, blah, 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 love you. Then he heard it 3 or 4 more times, Larry, I love you. And it was their wedding anniversary. He heard my mom as clear as day, Larry, I love you. Oh, that freaking kills me. So, yeah. So, 3 months to the day, my dad passed June 25th after my mom was coming for him, and I'm sure he's seen her way more times than that. And what's weird, and that's why I believe in the afterlife, a day and a half or 2 days before my dad passed away, they used to call my dad Ginia. That means baby in Polish. I didn't hear that phrase for 20-some years. My grandma, my dad's mom, used to call him that and stuff like that. Out of the blue, I heard that in my head. I know that my grandmother came for my dad when he passed away, because my dad, which you guys don't know, my dad was there the day his mother passed away in the room. He seen her on the ceiling when she passed away. I'll never forget him telling me that. He seen her on the ceiling. Unbelievable. So she came for her baby. That was her baby, her Ginia. I heard Ginia. She was trying to tell me she was coming for my dad. Like, you can't make shit like this up, people. This shit, like I tell you, I'm like, why would I heard the word Ginia out of the blue? I haven't heard it in 25 years. I heard the word Ginia. That was my grandma telling me she's coming for my dad. She's going to be there for him. I didn't know, but I know all this now. It all clicks and all makes sense. But that's the story of me taking care of my dad. I took care of him for almost 4 years after my mom passed away. Quit my work, got rid of everything, lived with my dad, but I took care of him. I killed myself. I wish I wouldn't have... I thought I was honoring him by keeping up the house clean, edging and weed whacking, pulling weeds and bringing rocks. I filled up their yard with rocks. I had my husband paint the house. People would stop because all the houses in the neighborhood were red brick and gray brick. English that I am, half English, I had them painted like a cream color. Everything was green. The front door was green, and all the trim on the house was green. Everybody would stop and go, oh my God, this is the most beautiful house. The Yangs that moved in there after I sold it fucking destroyed it, loser. Sorry. It was something out of a magazine. It was that beautiful. It stood out. Green and cream. It was... Oh my God. I it's beyond beautiful, guys. Beyond beautiful. I mean, people I didn't even know stopping all the time, coming and looking at the house. It was gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. But, I honored, God gave me the strength, and I honored my dad. And I'll never forget, the one thing kept me off my mind, off my dad. We couldn't breathe no more, so the machine was real loud in the house, and that scared me, made me upset. And the one movie I'll never forget I was watching while this was all happening, I was trying to keep my mind off of something for a minute. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Pushing 10. Really good movie. Really good movie. And that gave me a little bit of peace for an hour and a half. Watch that movie. It's a great movie, Pushing 10. I'm not going to tell you nothing about it. Awesome, excellent movie. And I did good. I did good by my dad. I honored my dad. I did right by my dad. I did the best that I could, and I took care of him for all those years. And all the doctors and everybody said my dad would have never lived. They go, you're the reason your dad's alive here, because you kept him alive. They go, we don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing, keep doing it, is what the doctors told me. I didn't let them give him no more of their crappy medicine. I only let them give him aspirins, and my dad did well. He did well. So that's what they said to me. So that's the story of my beautiful dad, Lawrence Ernest Hodella, the hardest working man. Started working at 11 years old, putting fences in. Quit going to school, was drinking in a bar at 12 and 13 years old. He was like a grown-up adult because he had to help support his family. They were very, very, very poor. He helped support them. Wonderful man. My dad was wonderful character. But tomorrow I'm going to come on here and show you pictures when my parents were young. They were beautiful. They looked like old Hollywood. They were something out of a damn magazine. I'm going to show you. I can't wait to show you guys now. Now you guys got to come back, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe, because you guys are going to shit your pants. They were both beautiful. My mom had flaming red hair. She died. She was gorgeous. My dad had jet black hair. Just good-looking man. Wait till you see. Wait till you see. And you're going to say, ooh, how did they get that ugly-ass daughter? But, yeah. I'm going to bring you pictures and stuff. I got my dad and my grandma's dimples. As fat as I am, I got their dimples right here from my grandmother, Clara. My grandma, Clara, as sick as she was, she remembered... recited a poem about goldenrod when she was like 90 years old to my mother. My mom goes, where did you get that from? She goes, I remember when I was a little girl in school, that poem. My grandma was really cool. That's where my dad got a lot of his smartness from his mom. She was wonderful. Clara Hodella. All right, so like and subscribe. I'm going to come back and show you guys pictures tomorrow, more stories and funny stories and whatever else I can think of. I love you guys. Have a great day and help keep pushing me out there. All right, bye.